Step one for getting things wired up is getting your breadboard. You're also going to need a power supply. Power supplies are going to stay with me. You're going to need to remove those from your system each time. But let's take a look at what we need to do here with our power supplies. There are jumpers on either side. We want to make sure that they're on the 5-volt position, which both of mine are. You also want to notice the positive and negative legs. Notice on your breadboard, positive is marked with the red line, negative is marked with the blue line. You want to make sure that they line up properly. So for instance, here, my positive is actually on my negative side. So that's not going to work out for me. I'm going to flip my breadboard around. I'm going to plug this in here and here. Okay. Now, you can see along the top line it says positive, and that's next to the red line. Then we say negative, that's next to the blue line. Down here, positive, red, negative, blue. So that's going to get us set up to continue on. All right, at this point I have my finished robot arm brought into the system. On the back of the breadboard, we have tape that we can remove. We are going to attach our breadboard to the base of the robot. Okay. So that is going to be like where all of our connections get made up. So let's talk about breadboards really quick. At the top and the bottom here, the same places where we talked about the positive and the negative, these are called bus bars. Bus bars run all the way across the sides for these two, okay? So everything in this bus is connected to the ground. Everything in this bus is connected to positive. The same thing happens on the opposite side. Now, when we look at the main section of the breadboard, there are 5 pinholes. They're labeled like row 10, row 11, row 12, whatever that might be. All 5 of those holes have a metal strip that connects them, so they are electrically connected to one another when we plug wires in. They are not, however, connected to the rows next to them. So like row 10 is not automatically connected to row 11. 11 is not automatically connected to row 12. So when we want to keep things separate from one another, we want to make sure that they are in separate rows. When we want them to be connected to one another, we want to make sure that we're wiring within the same column of 5. They are not attached across this beam down the middle and to this side here. So like these 5 on row 15 are separate from these 5 on this half of row 15. So when we go to start wiring in our servos, we're going to wire in our servos across 3 separate rows. One of the rows will be our signal wire, one of the rows will be our 5-volt wire, and one of the rows is going to be our ground wire. So let me show you how that's going to work. All right. So this right here is a string of pins. We have like male pins on this side and this side. That's going to allow us to connect a female plug to another female plug. We need to break off a string of 3 of these. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Snap it. So I have 4 of these at this point. I'm going to start to plug them into each end of the servo. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to start to plug these into position. And let's try and keep things a little bit organized here. The left-hand side motor, let's connect that to the left-hand side of the breadboard. We're going to put it like right in roughly the middle of the rows and columns. All right. Then the middle one, I'm going to connect towards the middle. Honestly, I think that middle one needs some wires, so I'm going to make an adjustment to that here in a second. The right one, we're going to connect on the right side. I guess the claw will connect separately. We'll put the middle one here in the middle. Yeah, okay, so here's a length of wire. We have male pins on both sides. So our claw, our claw comes up to the end. Instead of putting this adapter in here, we're gonna connect up. And I don't have the right colored wires here. You may not either. So you're just gonna have to kind of remember. Blue does represent ground. So I will connect that up this direction. That extends our wire. It also allows us to directly connect down below. So at this point, with this one in particular, I can already really start wiring this up. Again, blue is ground, purple is 5 volts. So I'm gonna connect blue to the ground and purple to the 5-volt pin. My signal wire, I'm going to separate out, and I'm going to connect that down on the opposite side. Okay, so we're going to get power from our bus bars. We need to get jumper wires now to connect between our servos and our individual wires. Right now we're going to skip all of our signal wires. So we're going to connect ground to ground, positive to positive on all of these 3 servos. All right, so I have some jumper wires. Again, these are like male to male wires. I have some red and black wires here. You may get a variety of different colors. Again, you really just want to match like what your servo is to where it belongs. So again, brown is ground, so they're going to go to the ground pin. Red is 5 volts, so it's going to connect to the positive. Okay, so when we look at this, it doesn't matter if things are in exactly the same holes that I have them in, right? We need them to be conceptually in this electrically connected in this pattern. So again, my 5 volts have gone to the 5-volt pin, my grounds have gone to the ground pin. I've done that on those 3. Again, my claw is already kind of done because I used this extension wire to directly connect to where they belong. You can also see where the claw is connected over to this side, which is going to nothing at this point, all right? But the way that we're gonna wire these up on this side, we want them all in the rows next to one another. And again, it doesn't matter like if they start down here or start in the middle, because we're gonna connect to the Arduino separately. But we want them connected up, claw, left, middle, right. So when I start to take my data jumper wires, I'm going to bring them all over to like this pin here. So once again, claw is going to be first. It's going to be like towards the left, let's say. We're going to take the left servo. I'm going to connect to the data pin side, and I'm going to connect that to the right of the claw. Then the data pin on my middle servo is going to get connected to the right of the left. And then my rightmost data pin for my right servo is going to get connected to the rightmost pin in here. So in the end, all of our data pins now have been transferred to be in a row with one another, okay? So again, we have our claw, our left, our middle, and our right. All right, so we're going to take our male-to-male headers again. We're going to break off two. This is going to be for our positive and negative connection. This is going to help connect our Arduino's power to the breadboard power, which we need a consistent positive and ground throughout the whole system. So we're going to plug this into any of the two ports that are labeled positive and ground. Then we're going to break off another four. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to go into the same 4 columns as our jumper wires, like that. So now we have our jumper wires connected up to 4 pins here, so those are going to be connected up. And then we're going to take a piece of ribbon cable. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, nope, 6 pieces of the ribbon cable. Okay. And here you can see we have female ends on one side and then male ends on the opposite side. All right. If you get like a male to male cable, you don't actually need these pins in the board itself. All right. And you might. So once again, we got to kind of figure out which ones are going to be positive. I guess in this case for me, it's going to be blue and green. It's going to be positive and negative. Blue is going to be negative. Green is going to be positive. And then for me too, we have again our claw. And then our other left, middle, right. They're going to be my other wires. So purple is going to be claw for me. Gray is going to be left. White is going to be middle. And black in this case is going to be right. Boom. Okay, so now our colors are kind of screwed up on the opposite side here. Again, this is our positive and our negative. And then these 4 wires here are our servos. So these are the 6 wires that are going to need to get connected up to the Arduino.